David Peralta pulled off the upset of Robert Guerrero on PBC on Spike tonight. Hello, everyone. Calix Boxing here. Shout out to all the new subscribers and hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos. You are now tuned in to the post-fight show of Robert Guerrero versus David Peralta and Alfredo Angulo versus Freddie Hernandez. And you had two upsets tonight, two mini upsets. I consider the Peralta upset a little more than a mini upset, to be honest, because this is a guy we didn't see much of. I only saw one fight of him, and the fight that I saw of him, and the reason I predicted Guerrero to win the fight is the fight I did see of Peralta. He wasn't nearly as ambitious and as aggressive in that fight. He looked a little more, I don't want to say lazy, but a little more submissive in that fight and just happy to throw the jab and paw the jab out there and control distance. And that's how he looked in the first two rounds of this fight. You know, you saw him throw the jab out there, throw the jab, very good jab, but wasn't throwing much behind it. Gave the first two rounds to Guerrero. And then all of a sudden in that third or fourth round, Peralta started throwing that right hand behind it and that straight right, and it was finding a home consistently on Robert Guerrero's face. And then Guerrero started doing something where he was just countering with the left, and that was working well. He was landing some big left hands. The problem was he fell in love with that, and he was just sitting back and waiting for Peralta to throw that right hand, that straight right, and just waiting for it. And while he's waiting for it, Peralta knew it, so he's throwing the jab out there, throwing the jab out there, and then Guerrero is just waiting for that right hand, and then Peralta throws the right hand, throws the left counter behind it, and yeah, he's landing with the counter, but Peralta just landed a bunch of jabs in a straight right. And you just landed one counter left, and he fell in love with the counter left, and he forgot that Guerrero is good when he's coming forward and yucking the fight up, sort of clinching, and he does a good job of grabbing with one arm and then throwing with that left hand that he keeps free. And he forgot about that tonight. And I don't know if it was just the jab and Peralta controlling distance and space and Guerrero having problems with that. And then he just decided, I'm not going to do that. Or if he just completely fell in love with that counter left and was hoping to get Peralta out of there with one big shot. But Peralta just did a really good job. And that's what I said in the prediction video. Even though I picked Guerrero, the problem is these guys coming up from Argentina and Colombia that you see for the first time in the States, or when they go to the UK and they fight there for the first time and the audience hasn't seen these guys fight. And not only the audience hasn't seen these guys fight, because we have as much access to fights as these managers and trainers and boxers do as well. So Robert Guerrero has probably seen as much of this guy as we have. So the problem is, you know, when this guy is a little spunkier in the ring than Guerrero expected, and all of a sudden he can't walk him down, and this guy's throwing a straight right hand that's landing and having some success when I didn't expect this guy to have power, then Guerrero's like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? And Guerrero just never adjusted to that. He never made any adjustments late in the fight. There was a round, I don't know what round it was, maybe 7 or 8, when he started to finally walk Peralta down, but then he completely abandoned it. I don't know if he figured this is too hard or what, but he fell in love once again with the counter left, which was having some success. But when Peralta, you saw him later in the fight, when he started to throw that straight right, he started to move his head a little bit to each side, and Guerrero started to miss with that counter left a little more. So I actually scored that. I thought I scored it on first glance 6-6, but then I looked down because I was keeping score on the app on my phone, and I had it 7-5 Peralta, and I actually would have had it 115-112 had the referee scored that knockdown. I believe that was the 9th round that Peralta scored on Guerrero, and Guerrero got trapped against the ropes when he fell against the ropes. It should have been a knockdown. I know there was some feet getting tangled, but generally the rule is if you land the punch, which he clearly landed a punch while their feet were getting tangled up. He clearly landed, I think, 2 punches actually, and Guerrero went back against the ropes. That should have been considered a knockdown. And I think the referee just completely missed it. because if it's not a knockdown, he's still supposed to grab Guerrero's gloves and count it as a slip and then wipe off his gloves. He didn't even do that. So that just shows me that the referee completely missed. He's looking straight at. I don't see how he could miss it, but he just completely ignored that Guerrero landed against the ropes and the ropes were holding him up, and he was against the ropes for a good 2 seconds. So should have been scored a knockdown, but it didn't end up mattering, which is good. And I think the judges got it right. I was kind of surprised by the 116, 112 because generally the bigger name fighter fighting in his home state would get the benefit of the doubt in these rounds, in these close rounds. But I think they got it right, and that's good to see. And props to PBC tonight for putting on some good matchmaking tonight, because I was pleased with the 2 fights. I thought they were 2 competitive fights, 2 good fights, entertaining fights, and the judges got both of them right, I felt. So props to the PBC for that, and props to everybody involved. Yeah, and props for Peralta. I'm interested to see where he's going to fit in now, because this is a guy that is coming out of nowhere. People didn't expect much of him. I think I have his record written down here from the prediction video I had. He's 25. He's now 26-2-1. He only had a 50% KO percentage, which once again, man, it surprised me that his punches had that much of an effect on Guerrero. I don't know if it's just Guerrero being past his prime. Guerrero never had a good run at welterweight. Every time he stepped up at welterweight, he's lost. But this was a chance for him, fighting in his home state. He had the crowd on his side. He's fighting on Spike. This was an opportunity for him to try to get back in the mix, because he was on all the rankings you look at, he's somewhere in between 12 and 20, which puts him right outside the top 10. So if he gets a win, gets some momentum, and Errol Spence Jr., who can't get a fight, and if Kell Brook doesn't come to the table for the mandatory, all of a sudden maybe Guerrero can get himself into an Errol Spence Jr. fight and get back in the mix, get himself another nice fight against an up-and-coming fighter, because Guerrero is the type of opponent that, you know, you would look for in a guy who has failed every time he stepped up to the elite level. However, he has a name, so he gives you a name on your resume if you beat him, even though he you know, he's not maybe top 10 caliber, right, or outside the top 10. So just I don't know if it was Guerrero, and Guerrero looked like he was fading late in the fight too. It was almost like they trained to get this guy out of here early in the fight. I think that's why he was loading up on the counter left so much. But maybe we're reading too much into this, and maybe Peralta's just the better fighter. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes we misread things, and sometimes the rankings are wrong, and Peralta's just a better fighter than Guerrero. Maybe Peralta beats Guerrero 9 out of 10 times. I'm not sure. We're not going to find that out because Peralta won the fight tonight. But maybe they do a rematch. I don't know. But, yeah, man, I just think Guerrero fell in love with that left hand and was hoping to land it, hoping to get this guy out of there. Maybe they didn't train to go 12. I'm not sure. But Guerrero got a rude awakening tonight against a good David Peralta, a solid David Peralta. And I'm interested to see where he falls into the rankings now, and if they give him another shot on another PBC card and line him up against a guy in the top 10. I don't know. As you can see, I'm kind of surprised that this happened tonight. So I fully expected to come on here before the fight started. Fully expected to come on here and say, all right, where does Robert Guerrero go from here after beating David Peralta? Does he fight Errol Spence? Does he do this? Does he do that? But that's not the talk now. And I really don't know where Guerrero goes from here now, unless they give him a rematch. I'm not sure. But as far as the co-main event, that was a bit of a, I don't want to say a surprise, but a minor upset. Freddie Hernandez beating Alfredo Angulo, and Angulo's reflexes are just terrible. And I said that about Angulo. I did a video on here called Alfredo Angulo is slow, and I put like 15 O's. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. I did that before the Angulo and Erislandy Lara fights. He's been slow and has flat-footed and has bad reflexes for a good 4 or 5 years now. His reflexes went downhill big time, but very flat-footed, and looked even more so with those black shoes. Anybody will tell you black shoes make you look even slower. But he looked like he was in the mud fighting in wet concrete, but the power was still there. And that's why I was surprised that, I expected Angulo to win this by knockout. I fully expected Angulo to land some shots on Hernandez and Hernandez to give in, his chin to give in. However, it didn't happen. Angulo did not start landing big shots until the 5th round, which surprised me. Hernandez did a good job of the activity. The activity was giving Angulo problems. He was controlling distance. Angulo could not get in on the inside, and he was not using any type of jab, which he never does. It's just all power shots with Angulo, all power shots. The problem was he could not find his space to land those power shots, and had no way of getting inside. He was just following. In the end of the 4th round, something interesting happened. He got caught with a bad body shot, and it seemed to invigorate him. And in the 5th round, Angulo came out like gangbusters, started landing big shots. And although Steve Farhood was still giving these rounds besides 1 or 2 to Angulo, I actually thought Angulo won 5 through 8 on my scorecard, which even the fight up at 4-4, there was one round in there where I said, okay, maybe Freddie Hernandez's activity thwarted or outweighed a little bit Angulo's power shots. But yes, Hernandez was landing 2-1 against Angulo, but Angulo was landing some vicious shots on Hernandez, opened up a cut as well. But the funny thing happened, Hernandez was walking right through him. And if you don't know better, you would say, okay, Angulo's shots at 168 don't have the same effect at 154. The problem with that thinking is Freddie Hernandez started his career lower than Angulo. He was fighting at 147 5 or 6 years ago against Andre Berto. So he's coming up from the lower weight class as well. They're basically naturally the same size. So Angulo's shots still should have had the same effect. Problem is Freddie Hernandez's chin is better than we thought, or shots aren't as effective as they once were because he's naturally slower, and those punches, although they're hard, they land hard. You can see them from a mile away. You know what they say, the shots that you don't see are the ones that hurt. If you see his shots coming away, even if they're a mile away, even if they hurt, they're not going to have the same effect. So Angulo just looked stuck in the mud tonight. I'm not sure where he goes from here. I was kind of hoping that he would win the fight. That way we could see an Alfredo Angulo, Antonio Margarito death match at whatever weight they want to fight at. Just let them come in the ring at whatever the weight they want, fight each other at whatever weight they want, and fight to the death in Mexico. But looks like that's not going to happen. I'd still be interested in it, to be honest. It's not like Margarito looked great a couple weeks ago against Canelo Alvarez's brother. So why not still do it? But, Angulo just looked bad. I thought Hernandez won the last 2 rounds, won the fight 6-4 on my scorecard, but I had no problem with the judges' scorecards. I think one judge had it 8-2, the other 2 had it 7-3, and it seemed like most people had it 7-3 for Angulo for Freddie Hernandez from what I saw. And maybe Angulo retires. I'm not sure, but his power punches just did not have the same effect. And the biggest surprise to me, the 2 biggest surprises to me were Freddie Hernandez's chin holding up. Even when he got the cut, I for sure thought he was going to get stopped at some point in the later rounds. But I was surprised by that. The second thing I was surprised by was Angulo was not able to land his power shots till the 5th round. I didn't expect Freddie Hernandez to control the distance and win off of activity, win rounds off of activity. I expected Angulo to walk straight through his shots and get on the inside. But Hernandez's activity won the day in this fight. It definitely won him 6 rounds, that's for sure, and maybe even more so than that. Especially, I mean, obviously the judges thought so, so that's all that matters. But the main thing tonight is Robert Guerrero getting beat by David Peralta. That's the main surprise of the night, and completely derails Guerrero's chance to get back in the mix. I mean, I don't see where he goes from here except for trying to get revenge, and maybe they'll give it to him. I don't know. I thought it was competitive enough fight in a decent enough fight to warrant it. If neither fighter has anywhere to go, I'm sure Peralta would be open to fighting Guerrero again. But maybe they give Peralta a shot at one of these guys in the top 10. I don't know. He's an awkward fighter. But he is a guy who, if you're a top 10 caliber fighter, you should beat him. So we'll see. But y'all let me know what y'all thought about tonight's events. I thought it was a good showing by PBC tonight, all the way around. Good judging. Besides the referee blowing that no knockdown call in the 9th round of Guerrero Peralta, I thought everybody performed well. The commentary could be better, for sure. I'd still like to see guys walk to the ring with their full entourage instead of by themselves or just with their trainer. There's still things PBC, I think, needs to work on. But as far as the competition level in the fights tonight, I thought it was 2 competitive fights, 2 entertaining fights, and it gave us surprises. So I'm all for it. Good fights tonight. And shout out to David Peralta for changing his career tonight. His career trajectory went from, a little roller coaster and then flattening to it's up here now. So, I think he's earned himself a pretty good payday in his next fight. We'll see who they give him. So hit me up. Let me know how y'all scored these fights, who y'all thought won. And y'all see these fighters going from here. And be on the lookout for more videos coming tomorrow. I got some prediction videos coming tomorrow. Probably Monday, to be honest. I think I'm taking tomorrow off, but probably Monday, and the podcast is back up Monday night with CalCast Volume 4. So y'all make sure to hit me up with those comments, or I'll get back to y'all on the podcast Monday night. Later, y'all. God bless.